All right, guys, Red Alert 2 World Series action at ya. Action at ya! I messed up the intro! We're in the finals, boys! I stayed up all night making a new map. I've been streaming nonstop for like 4 days because I went on vacation and I missed you guys too much. We're here in the finals. I'm up 3 hours early because Kian has a bedtime now. Here we are. We're doing it. We're living it. We're live. We got Marco, the final boss, aka the GOAT out of Finland here in red on the right side, facing off against Kian, the Octo Kid out of Russia in yellow here on the left side. You guys are living it today, man. Today, it's the first time ever, the history of Red Alert 2, we have an official triathlon. An official triathlon. We got the two best players in the Western world right now. We've talked about it before. I'm sure we'll get into it later today. There are some nuances once you bring in the Chinese community as far as top players right now. In the Western community, bona fide top players right here, right now, Marco and Kian, and they've proven that time and time again. Here we are, and we are playing all three game modes back to back to back to back to back. So we're starting things off with traditional Red Alert 2 right now. This is a best of 7 players picking their own factions. We have a map pool. We're doing random maps. And then from here, we're going over to Yuri's Revenge. Best of 7 in Yuri's Revenge. Then we're doing a best of 7 in Blitz. So that's what we're doing this morning. If you guys are catching this one on YouTube, you'll just be seeing the highlights spread out every few days. If you do want to come catch the live action next time, be sure to come follow us on Twitch, redalert2.com/live. I stream almost every day. It's lots of fun. In between games, we give out cash prizes. Raven just won $5. It was nuts. People were more excited about the crowd game than this game. I'm just kidding. But Raven, it was some good number guessing in there. So Red Alert 2, of course, early on here we see drone wars. Expect to see a lot of drone wars in Red Alert 2. Any of you guys unfamiliar with kind of the nuances of Red Alert 2 versus Yuri's Revenge? Of course, one of the big differences is that drones take 2 shots from the miner to be destroyed in Red Alert 2. In Yuri's Revenge, they decided that was a little too much, and they made it 1 shot. So much more difficult to counter drones in Red Alert 2. So you're going to see a lot of drones and, of course, the service depot to deal with that. So this map, nice and tight. There's always this battle towards the center, and you're trying to get in here and try to control these gems. Not only the tactical advantage of kind of controlling the middle, but, of course, you know, getting on these gems early on can oftentimes decide who's going to win the game. Now, Kian versus Marco, guys. Now, in December, we had kind of a version of this. We had the World Cup, Yuri's Revenge, and Blitz. And if you guys remember, Kian won both of them. Kian was on an absolute rampage. He played like 3,000 games that month, and he beat Marco in both game modes. But we didn't have Red Alert 2 game modes. So today's the first ever triathlon, all 3 game modes. And you got to think Marco's the GOAT, right? Greatest of all time, and that's because of his time spent dominating the game. He's been at the top level for so long. Of course, Kian, by far the youngest kid at the top level and has been playing the least amount of time of anyone at the top level. Kian, you know, relatively new in that regard. I mean, really only kind of making a splash on the top level here in the last year and a half or so now. So you got to think Marco's here to kind of prove something today. He didn't like losing the World Cup. And Marco, I think Marco's wants this. I mean, of course, Marco always wants to win, but I think he's hungry today. And we're seeing that here in this first engagement as he rolls through. Kian posturing up in the center, but Marco coming through now. Marco's tanks are going to pop. Very nice sentry gun from Kian to hold as well here. So Marco does kind of pull ahead in that little tug of war, but doesn't get any offensive value out of it. And Kian does come out with the dust settled with a foothold here in the center. But Marco was able to build up to these gems. So not really that big of a difference here. But Kian definitely more of an ability to get on this middle patch, which is nice. Yeah, so and yeah, I think that's, you know, sometimes I feel like with Marco's been around for so long. You know, you have someone like Kian come in. A lot of times we have these new players who come in and play non-stop, right? And they burn fast and they burn out and they're gone. And then people talk about them for the rest of eternity like, oh, there was this one guy that was so good. But Marco's the kind of guy who's been around for like years and years and years. And so I think Marco for a while was kind of waiting for Kian to burn out. And we've all kind of just like, will this kid keep up? Like, is this a marathon or a sprint? Does Kian have the stamina to keep getting better at the same rate? And I think Kian is slowly proving that. And really the next 6 months are going to tell us the most about Kian, if he's able to stay at this trajectory or not. Paradrop top left, love that from Marco. Gets in and grabs that oil, finding value wherever he can. He feels like maybe he's a little bit on his heels right now. He's trying to switch things up, throws the Paradrop down, grabs the oil, and now over to Battle Lab Tech for Marco. Desolators to the front lines. He's going to try to slow things down here, and of course get an Iron Curtain advantage, which should be no problem. As well, Kian over to Radar now as well. So Kian... okay, and so now going down to the Paradrop here. Conscripts coming in. Nice group of fodder here for Kian. Desolator there to clean out that fodder, though. All the fodder goes down. Forward Kirov now from Marco. So using that forward War Factory, the Kirov now right on the front lines. You love to see that. Kirov on the front lines. So that radar came, but no battle lab for Kian. Now this map kind of has a natural crescendo to the game as you start running out of ore. As you start running out of ore, you got to think, hey, we're about to start mining dirt. What can we get done before then? Marco, kind of famous for this Kirov turnaround move. Oftentimes, you know, you will see players just throw the Kirov downfield recklessly and hope they get lucky. But in this case, you know, you love to see Marco's like, hey, if the Kirov's going to die, don't send it downfield. Let's see what we can do with it. He's going to bring out some drones, maybe some Desolators to try to support that Kirov. Speedy Dasher! Speedy Dasher, $80 coming in. You love to see it. You love to see it. Hey, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate that money. All goes back to the players, into the stream. We're not making money around here, boys. All the money that comes in, all the subs, all the ad revenue, all the donations does go back. Helps me get some fuel in the rocket, get RA to the moon. That's what it's all about, boys. Speedy Dasher, truly, truly appreciate the generosity. That is going to help me create some great content. You guys know the deal around here, man. Every month we do another tournament. Next month I got some more fun stuff in store. The Yuri's Revenge tournament next month has 5 brand new maps. The players are playing all the factions, Yuri, Soviet, and Allied. Okay, split coming now. Split coming, we do see IC drones on the bottom side to deal with that split, but Marco outgunned on the top side. Drones on the bottom side will clean out that split on the bottom right, you would think at least, but he's gonna see what Kian can get done there. Kian on the top side hops in, grabs a miner. Did Kian only get 1 miner out of that attack? It was a really nice split. He was out tanking on the top side, but the drones on the bottom side, I think, kind of pulled Kian's attention there for a second. Okay, Kirov now coming. Oh, and that was another Paradrop, and that's a Paradrop from Kian, and the Paradrop's getting so much value today. Dude, I feel like conscripts, I feel like this is the month of conscripts. I feel like conscripts have been getting so much value. You love to see how the conscripts get involved, man. They don't get enough credit. They're the workhorse. All right, big engagement here, and as the dust settles, Marco coming out on top. And a very, very well played first point there. And if that's any indication of the excitement that we are in for today, I got to hit my hype button. So here we are over to point number 2 now. Both players sticking with Soviet. Again, both players picking their own factions over to Arabian Oasis. So here's the brackets here. So Kian kind of got a buy into this one after last month. We had some issues anyway, but it's kind of tricky in the brackets now. I'm setting up the brackets specifically so we only get good games. A lot of times in a tournament, you'll set like the 1 versus the 8, and then you have a blowout, and then like they slowly distill down. But in this one, I'm like, hey, let's give Kian some buys in. He won last month or 2 months ago. Anyway, the point is, both players winning some games. Well, actually, Kian not winning any games to be here. But Kian's proven himself to be here. Marco taking down Legend in a very nice game to be here. So RA2, this is the, you know, we got a triathlon today, all 3 game modes. What do you think, Ed? Where's Kian the most favored? What game mode?
I feel like he's been grinding Redler 2 the longest for now. He plays Redler 2 on the CNC Nail ladder. He plays Redler 2 on Rambo. God, he plays so much Redler 2 on Rambo. So I think the favorite here for him is Redler 2.
Yeah.
Marco is a little bit more comfortable, I want to say, on Yuri's. But that doesn't rule out Kian, by the way. Kian's still really good on Redler 2 and Yuri, you know? So, and Blitz, of course, you know that.
And Blitz, yeah. Red Alert 2 has kind of been the one he's been focused on. And actually, next month, again, guys, those drones in Red Alert 2 just feasting. But Service Depot's out to kind of mitigate, and will be out to mitigate the damage. Nothing too crazy. It does kind of slow down the economy of both players, but kind of evens out. Yeah, so Red Alert 2 is what Kian's been playing a ton of. And actually, next month, the Yuri's Revenge tournament, we're forcing players to play Yuri, Allied, and Soviet. And Kian says he won't play. So Kian is kind of like committed right now to playing Red Alert 2, to playing Soviet. And I think, like you said, he's been playing a lot on Rambo. Of course, that's kind of the Chinese style over there, is RA2, traditional RA2, Soviet only, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's
When you think about these guys in the top level, they're all about the competition, the competitiveness, right? Like they're not here to mess around. They're not here to like, all right, I'll play Germany versus your. No, no, no. Like we're here to play some real
Yeah.
games. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna handicap myself. I'm here to win. That's it. No more.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, his comfort pick is definitely Iraq Soviet player. So
Iraq versus Iraq, drones, rhinos, fodder, maybe some desolators. Yep, keeping it simple. Yeah, that's funny how those guys. Yeah, I kind of like. It was funny because when Kian said he wouldn't play Yuri's Revenge next month, because I'm like, I got this fun thing. Like to me, I'm like, we got these new maps, and everyone's gonna play all the different factions, and Kian's just like, he's like, I'm not here for fun. Like, I'm here to dominate on the most competitive platform, which of course is Red Alert 2 standard. He doesn't care about my shenanigans. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
like that one song. It's a League of Legends song from Worlds. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar, but it says they're all playing while I'm working. Right?
yeah,
Like we view this game differently.
yeah, we're on a very different page. And I was kind of like annoyed with Kian, and then I'm like, all right, I guess to be fair, I can't have both. Like, I can't have this kid being at performing at this level and then also being like, sure, Ivor, I'll come play Candyland with you. You know, like if I want him to
Yeah.
be this kind of player, then I need to respect that, he has to have some system to it.
It's funny though, because Marco is hands down always down for anything. He's, you want to do a clown fiesta? Sure,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
down. He wins
and
anyways.
that's why Marco's the GOAT, man. Hey, Marco, BO99 on the moon, no cash prize, a game mode you don't know. K. That's
Sure.
all he ever says. K. Just no, just
Yeah,
K.
yeah.
Just down, K. All right, little bit of some pressure here from Kian. Kind of two different little groups here. Yeah, Kian again. We saw this last time. Kian again, kind of posturing up early on, but Marco just sitting back and building up that economy and getting ahead. We do have 5 war factories to 5. Pretty identical builds as both players stretching themselves here.
Yeah, it's all about the build order here. Most players that's what their main focus is, right? They're not trying to like catch you out of position right away with the first early rhinos. They literally try to get an entire base established before they start making like their little moves and stuff. Yeah, 5, 6 war factories now, and now they're basically starting to move their rhinos in.
Yeah, just getting a massive economy behind him here. And now we do see an MCV move. So if MCV move from Kian here, is this pretty standard on this map, Ed?
Yeah, he's already expanded all the way to the bottom ore, so the next one is
Oh, to get up. Yep.
you can't. Yeah, you have to kind of go up the hill. So
Yeah, now Marco matching as well.
though there's sometimes, and I know that Woody likes to mix it up every now and then. A lot of the build orders here come from Woody. Sometimes he goes toward the center gems. Both players refusing to go to the center gems, playing it safe, staying in the back. Even though Kian does have full control of the center, right? He could technically put a refinery in there.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, players like this to like in a match this even the amount of respect they kind of are giving to each other. Maybe against a slightly worse player, you might do something like that and try to bait them into making a mistake. But both these players not counting on the other player making a mistake, they're both going to try to play it straight up. Does get in and grab that refinery, so nice little offensive action, a little first blood there for Kian. A nice little
Yeah,
hit.
that
And
is huge.
yeah, that's big. And
He's
that yeah.
he's even forcing Marco to bring in his miners from other patches accidentally.
Oh, nice. Yep. And enforcing, again, as I say, that does force a little bit of a mistake. Marco now going to look downfield, see what he can get done. MCV no longer there, of course. Kian a little bit slow to match that. Marco's going to be able to get at least, what's he going to get here? 1 miner. Okay, so Kian there to match. Nothing too crazy. This is where shit gets hard to fall. Oh, and bad unit control there from Kian, gets a few out of position. Difficult to really explain how tricky it is to kind of be managing on a map like this when you have different splits, especially against a player like this where as soon as you mess up, they're going to make you pay for it. So Kian now pushing in heavily on the bottom side. Does have a little bit of a fodder advantage there. Kian splits top side as well. Marco goes down the gut. Marco uncontested. Oh my god. So big engagement bottom right. Feasting on miners top right, and Marco's not there at all. Gonna gives up 3 miners there.
Yeah, that was like a base trade without being a base trade. They have tanks everywhere. They have tanks
Holy
defending and they have tanks attacking in 2 different positions here
Yep,
from
and
both
regrouping.
sides here.
Yep, regroup. Yeah, oh my god. And regroups. He's able to join those 2 forces together. Marco's reinforcements a little late to the party. Marco pulling in miners now as fodder, either inadvertently or on pulling in the miners. And an elite rhino comes out, and Marco does chase Kian out there. But no miners, bottom right. Kian lost a couple, but all of Kian's refineries have a miner except top left.
Yeah, this is
Marco.
looking good for technically Marco has the tank numbers, but
Ooh.
if Kian can hold off for like
Yeah.
the next minute, it's looking good for him. Marco right now is only left with like 3 miners, I believe. Kian already has like 6 miners. So
Yeah, but it looks like Kian's gonna almost go for a base trade here. He's not contesting this backside split, and there's 2 elites and a vet in that group. So Kian decides to kind of bulldoze through the front side, kind of the opposite of what kind of comes to mind for me and you, Ed, because I was thinking Kian was ahead on his economy. He just needed to hold there. But Kian
yeah,
calls
he
GG.
went.
Yeah, maybe
He
just
tried to spamming some drones, did not work out there. It was a lot faster versus the far spawn. So this is a short spawn for Kian. Kian has a good spawn. Well, not the good spawn, but and you see Marco now has the far back spawn. So Kian
yeah.
can get to oils way quicker, but Marco has the gems way quicker on the
Ah,
right
okay.
side.
So it's not, yeah. So okay. So it's not like that really that devastating. Yeah. So getting to the oils quicker. You do have to run your engineers on foot, but we do have no dog engineer eat on, which is one setting, guys. If you guys aren't familiar, so dogs can't eat engineers. Which is something we've added to the game, as a community. But it kind of does. It's pretty annoying to get into like dog engineer wars early on. You have a lot of people rage quitting if things don't go wrong. There's kind of a coin flipping mechanic to it. But yeah. So it's a little bit of a consolation though, because then if you're further
Yeah,
back. And you can build from here. If you're on this island, you're gonna have to MCV move pretty early, right? Or I guess you can just
yeah.
build off the
Well,
oils, right?
here's the thing though, when it comes to like the oils, and you talk about Kian, he's gonna try to snatch 1 or 2 oils from Marco's side too, and he has the liberty to do it. And keep in mind, he can get the oil in the center and put his refinery at the center gems as well, so he doesn't lose out on gems. So the closer the
Oh,
spawn is, I think, a little bit better than having the
ah,
further spawn.
yeah, I forget because you're gonna be building off your tech because there's gems in the
And
middle.
you look at the top oil and bottom oil now. Those both belong to Kian. Normally it's 4 each, right? And you can get there in time if you're spawning at the same distance. But since Kian was a little closer, he can just get the top oil and bottom oil. So he has an extra oil now.
Yeah, and it is kind of it's funny, I used to when I first started streaming, like there's some players where like little things like this and like I used to just be sweating bullets. I'm like, "Oh my God, like this player's going to be so upset. He's going to like send me a bunch of angry DMs and threaten to never play again." The thing with Marco and Kian, man, these guys are so the way they're just like, I'm like, "You want me to set the spawns? Just go." They're like, "Just go." I
Shut
don't
up
give a
and go.
I don't give a shit. I'm like, "Marco, I have a setting on right now where your tanks shoot mashed potatoes." He's like, "Just go."
He'll make them work somehow, right? He'll make French fries out of them.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh man.
exactly, exactly. He'll find a way to make the mashed potato tanks work. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, the engineers. So it is kind of funny players, but players are so funny like that because to us casual players, it's like, hey, let's turn on the settings so dogs can't eat engineers, and then you have these guys trying to abuse it by like running the engineers all around the map early on. So Marco is gonna get in, just take out this oil, not gonna try to steal it. Just try to cut some of those off. Obviously, all these oils early on, it really changes what you can do. Now in regular RA2, obviously yours revenge, you can tech push earlier. Regular Riddler 2, are you? I guess looking to push tech here as well, Ed.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, this map, I've mentioned this many times in like previous streams. This map is so good because you can do literally any tactic and it's viable. You can push tech right away. You can push multi-war. You can go naval. Whatever it is that you want to do on this map, it's a viable option, and it's not gonna set you behind like dramatically, right? Like if and there's games or there's maps where you go tech and you fall behind on war factories and then you lose, right? This game I feel like you
Yeah.
can hold if you're going tech. Like you have these choke points, you can just play around what you want to play and it can be a valuable tactic.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do love these. I love tech. I love what tech does to maps because then you have like different bases without having to MCV move. I think that's so cool. And you see, Marco cuts off the bridge on the top side, try to reduce Kian's ability to kind of backdoor him here. Marco, the first one in the water, gets a dreadnought out, but keep an eye on Marco's. Like, whoa, look at the economies here, Ed. 10K in the bank for Kian, and Marco dead broke as he brings out that dreadnought. Oh, but the perfect target gets a chain reaction refinery. Oh, and where is Kian right now?
They both have dreads now in the center. This is going to be huge for Kian as well. Oh, actually he
He
gets
gets
squidded right away.
squidded right away, and finally Marco gets squidded. That is not what you expect to see from the Octo kid here.
And
That dreadnought just, I mean,
I think
I
those
mean,
bottom
obviously
oils are also Kian's, right?
Kian had to have known that was coming. What Kian's arming up an amphibious transport topside. Um, I mean, he had to have known that dreadnought was coming. That was just a little surprising for me.
I'm not sure if he went straight squid once he built his naval yard. He might have gone straight dread there. A huge tank engagement here. Actually, it looks like it's favoring Marco here. Kian's actually just running away from the battle.
Oh, Kian gets a little strung out now, and then Marco splits back. Now Kian can turn back on that, and Marco goes for a 6-tank split. The Iron Curtain there.
Marco ICs, that's a nice IC actually. Gets a couple of his own tanks
Ooh.
in the front line there and just, yeah.
Yeah, and that was actually kind of funny because I was like, Marco's splitting up, but he doesn't have enough tanks. And every time I find myself questioning Marco, of course, I'm always wrong. And so he was able to undersplit the right side, use the Iron Curtain, and then split the left side uncontested. And
Wow.
Marco goes up 3-0. I had to get up a couple of hours early to work around Kian's bedtime. So anyway, that's why we got Ed in here. Ed and I both got a cup of coffee in our hands. We're going to be okay. It's a triathlon, Ed. We got a lot ahead of us still.
Yes.
A lot ahead of us. Hopefully Kian
Cheers.
doesn't... Yeah, yeah. Hopefully even if Kian... This isn't looking good for Kian, and this is kind of his game mode. Well, Blitz. Blitz, of course. Blitz, anything. You know, Yuri's Revenge, maybe Marco a little bit favored, especially if they keep playing at this level. But we've talked about it before. You know, these players like Kian who've just been playing total less time, even if they have been playing way more games recently. There's always that concern of them getting a little tilted, carrying over kind of this negative energy into the next series.
Yeah, if anything, I feel like Kian, instead of saying go 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 go, I feel like he should be like, all right, 1 minute, like just recompose himself, take a breather, you know what, just shrug all those losses off and be like, all right, it's 0-0. We were back into this game right here, right? But we're
Yeah.
coming back.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
that's definitely worrying me. Like, I mean, that's the kind of like you can kind of tell in the chat. You can kind of tell in the chat and the way people play. You know how.
uh-oh. His MCV's getting dog blocked. If there's a drone headed up there, he's not gonna be able to
Oh,
deploy it. That's gonna be GG. Oh, okay.
oh, that
Ooh.
was close. That was close. Oh my God. So the dog was up there with the MCV. So the dog's preventing the MCV from deploying. So the dog's preventing the MCV from deploying, and then he had a drone right behind it. That would have been sick.
That would have been
Yeah,
GG. Straight up.
that might have had Kian quitting. So
The
normally,
series, yeah, probably.
yeah, just out. He's just out. That wins the triathlon. So the MCV bottom left. Oftentimes you see the MCV move top right, don't you, on this map? Or is that?
When it's Soviet versus Soviet, normally you see both Soviet players moving toward the ore expansions instead of the gems. It's pretty risky to go to the gems. You can get droned a lot easier. It's a little bit further
Oh,
distance out there.
so guys.
So unless you can kind of sneak your way out there, or build a depot halfway through, like deploy it, build a depot, then get there, it's shenanigans. You rather just the safe bet is going toward the ore. Against allies, it's a little different since they don't have drones themselves.
Yeah, who was it the other day? Someone droned Marsh, I think. Was that? Wait, who was who?
That was me.
Oh, that was you?
Yeah.
Dude, my brain is melted. Yeah, you
I figured
droned.
I was like, he's gonna move to gems, of course, right? That's the move.
That was awesome. Yeah, you droned him his MCV when it was right here, and then he turned the MCV around. He got an IFV engineer, and then your drone hit the IFV engineer.
Yeah, I made 2 drones that game. Nobody makes drones against allies, but you should.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if you're prepared to take out the NGIFV, yeah, that was pretty funny. Fish with the sub, a year of subbing for Fish, Fish OP, a year in Fish, a year of our friendship. Wow, that's the real story here. That's the real barn burner. So early, yeah, just the drone doing a little drone dance here early on. Yeah, and Kian, man, Kian,
That's a
man,
huge drone hit right there. I say huge only because keep in mind he's expanding to the right side right now, right? The last thing he wants to build is a depot. He needs a refinery on the top right to get toward those gems right about now.
right, right. Yeah, and it's difficult. I think so many players kind of underestimate like what that looks like. I think, and I always compare it to chess. Like, when you're young and you play chess, you're like, oh, I know how to play chess, as in I know how the pieces move. And then you get older and you realize, oh, it's not about how the pieces move. It's about how you open and exactly what you're going to do the first 10 moves. And that's what we're talking about here with these build orders from these guys. I mean, it's to the cell, like to the cell where their buildings are going to be, and how to get over a little hump, get your refinery right on the next patch, and the little things like that, especially Soviet versus Soviet. It makes a big difference. It adds up over time.
They can set you behind if you get droned midway. Let's pretend midway through a building, you either have to make the risk. Do you cancel your building, or do you go with it and try to risk getting a depot after your building is done? Those are devastating. The most devastating hits are when you have to cancel buildings out for sure.
Yeah, and you were saying that yesterday. So you were saying, I mean, kind of surprising. Were you surprised to not see Kian already just have a service depot out?
Well, yeah, it is surprising because it's like a standard build by now. You know, a lot of players they make it part of their build order after like their second refinery. They have a power plant and then a depot. It's just almost like a standard thing. If you're playing against Latov, you have to have a depot. This dude does not stop making drones like literally all game long. So right here, you might even see Marco try to get one of those top right miners from Kian since there's no depot on that top right side of the map. They're always keeping their eyes open for those sneaky hits here. Um,
Yeah.
Kian
Okay. So
pushing it in here.
and does protect Marco does protect the move there. So Kian gonna head down. Marco had a split, but does pull it back to defend this position. So Kian's gonna get risking of getting a little bit sandwiched here. But
Yeah, this is a huge sacrifice
okay.
here from Kian. He's
Oh,
expecting to get a lot more than I think what he's getting. He's losing a lot of tanks. He did kill a refinery. It looks like he's wrapping himself on the right side of the map toward Marco's MCV as well. So he's
that's kind of
trying to
nice.
create an opening here, but I think he lost more tanks than he needed to there.
Ooh, I'm surprised to see Kian the split on the right side. I'm surprised he didn't try to get down. Maybe he thought Marco was going to be there, didn't want to get caught down there. Yeah, so Marco pulling back that left side split to kind of sandwich that attack. And Kian maybe got a little bit scared about his MCV being down there. So Kian pulls back, pretty much only gets a refinery out of that. I don't think he got any miners.
He
Um,
might have gotten better value than I thought. Is he out tanking right now? It looks like he might be out tanking as well.
so this top right, Marco looks like he's going to pull ahead.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm liking where Kian's position is right now, better than Marco's. I think he's going to win the right side fight here soon, but
and if
he's
he,
going to head over to
yeah.
the MCV if he
And
can.
and Marco just has, and Marco's starting to go broke. Well, both players starting to go broke here, and Marco sells. Marco sells. Yeah,
He definitely
Marco
needs
doesn't think
that.
he can hold that expansion, but he does bring a few miners down, which is interesting. He brings those miners to the gems, hoping to maybe just get a couple gem loads before he can. But you know, Kian diving in on the bottom side as well,
Yeah,
and Kian
Kian's
gonna
not going
pull.
to give him any
Yeah,
time to come back. Yeah, wow, actually very impressive by Kian there.
and yeah, that was really well played. Keen applying that kind of unspoken pressure on the MCV side did force Marco to potentially get himself in a position he didn't want to be in on the left side. Um, but yeah, that little when Marco brought back that split, I thought Keen was gonna get a little more sandwich, but little clicks, man, little clicks make a difference. Sometimes that you click different, someone else clicks wrong, and 10 extra tanks survive.
Yeah, and the thing is, Kian did kind of get ahead of Marco in the tanks, right? Like he was forcing Marco to chase his own tanks, right? And Kian had a lot of fodder in the back of his tanks as well. So a lot of maybe Marco's tanks were accidentally shooting the dogs instead of the tanks
Yeah,
of Kian instead. So I think that might have been a lot of value where Kian ended up coming out ahead on that.
yeah, and
And he
yeah.
honestly, he really needed that win, man. I'm telling you right now, Reconcile is one of those maps that Marco just about, I think he has like a 90% to maybe even
Oh,
higher winning
really?
percentage on that map. Oh yeah, dude. He
Ah,
beats just about everybody on there. So Kian winning that map, huge, huge, huge for him.
yeah, and especially like I said, guys, triathlon, right? We got all three game modes today, so a 4-0 to start off the day is not what Kian wanted, and yeah, taking Marco down on a map that he favors, that's got to give put a little hop in Kian's step here. We talked about it before though. It's kind of funny, like how like the likelihood of winning when you're down 3-0, like when you're on match point, if you don't have any, it's kind of funny. I feel like you do slightly have a chance of going up even though you don't have momentum. It's just so hard to be the kind of player who can really put on pressure when you're up 3-0. It's really difficult to not let off the gas a little bit, for Marco, like to not just get a little bit comfortable. And sometimes it's hard for players to kind of feel like that. Maybe Marco just felt like,
Yeah.
but it did. I mean, Marco looked like he was playing good there, but like we talked about, Kian, is he the kind of guy who's going to kind of roll over here and get frustrated? But he still played. It's not like he came out uber aggressive there. He played it smart and took it home. So hopefully he can keep it rolling.
Yeah, he definitely needs to right here. What's this, a best of? Sorry, best
This
of
is,
seven.
yeah,
So
best of seven.
Marco's on
So
match point, huh?
yeah, this is so yeah. If Marco wins this, yeah, he does take home the series. So Kian, yeah, I mean this is it for Kian. I mean, Kian's got to stay alive
Yeah.
here. But yeah, just grabbing a little bit of momentum at least in this series, so he doesn't go stumbling into Yuri's revenge after getting goose egged.
Yeah, I like, okay, since we're talking about spots here, or favorite for Kian, this spot definitely favors Kian only because the depot, you can make a depot in the center of both expansions, I guess, from the gems, without having to make two depots, right? On the top right side, I feel like you might have to make two if you're not careful. But like I said, these guys standard. depot's going to come out whether they get droned or not. He puts it in the center, so that gives you enough time to send the drone or the miner from the bottom gems. Usually you have to make 2 depots like that.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, the depots are so cheap and they build so fast too. But I mean, so it's really not that big of a deal to build one if it's worked into your build order. But very annoying if you're like all of a sudden your war factory's almost done, and then yeah, then you find yourself canceling and going from there. So again, key in. We've seen kind of key in with the early pressure most games so far. And here it is again, and I like that against Marco. I think being aggressive, you can't just sit back and try to build against Marco. I do like this. The aggression that we've been seeing from Kian hasn't worked in a few games, but yeah, we'll see here.
Yeah, most games he's the aggressor, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he's
has
he's
been.
always been the one that kind of pushes forward, which I love about him, right? He reminds me a lot of me with better control and execution. To be honest, he's like that aggressor, right? But he always keeps his like back foot or his what is it called? His macro gameplay always on point. He
Well, that's
never
yep,
falters, right?
and
And then
that's
me, when I'm like pushing my tanks, I forget. Oh shit, I have to make more war factories, more refineries. You know, this guy doesn't forget. He's always on it.
yeah, and that's why he's not okay. He's got 8 extra hands, man. That's it. I mean, it really
That's true,
seems
bro.
like that sometimes. You're like, how is he microing this group of conscripts while also, like dancing downfield? Three
Yes.
three tanks split on the backside, paradrop there as well. Marco dead broke right now, so no sentry gun coming. So drops a refinery, then moves the MCV back, and so Mark Kian just kind of abandons that split. I feel like he could have tried to keep a little pressure up there. Maybe just felt like it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, Marco matched him with those 3 tanks, so
Yeah.
he's going to regroup, come back, maybe send a couple reinforcements to help him out with that split on the top.
Yeah, there he
It
goes.
looks like both players are kind of comfortable on the bottom side. They have enough fodder to kind of scare the opponent away, right? Like you don't want to come into this fodder. Neither player really
Oh,
wants to push. Oh,
MCV.
oh, the depot is super far away.
Oh,
Marco does not even think twice about it. He's like, "Am I gonna make it? No, no, no. We're just gonna kill you. You're not gonna make it."
and that's it, boys. And that's, I mean, and that's one of those things too where you look at that, you're like, it's so tempting to be like, oh, drones OP, or oh, what a blunder. And it's like, no, I mean, like for Kian to be doing all the shit he's doing right now and also have a drone in position to anticipate Marco's move and then sneak it in there without Marco seeing it. And you love how quick Marco did that equation and was like, nope, I can't get to the service depot. The MCV's going down. And so Kian cuts
Insta.
off the bridge bottom side. He knows he can slow this down. Desolators are out. Yeah, we move into a mid game here. If you're up in MCV, you got to be pretty comfortable. So now Marco's in the pressure cooker. He's got to attack right now. Kian just has to hold the line, go into a mid game with an MCV and take this one home. Desolators now can zone out that choke point, so Kian can focus on this topside split, which he has more than enough tanks for. And he
Yeah, and
got
Marco feeling the pressure there once he got the MCV droned,
Yep.
right? Like we were talking about how he never pushes. He's kind of been waiting on Kian, and once he lost his MCV, he was on the other side of the map already. And unfortunately, did not work out for him here. He lost the first tank battle. It looks like he's regrouping, sending reinforcements, losing the reinforcements, which is spinning out his army on the bottom,
Yep.
right? So just GG right there.
Talk about that a lot. A lot of players are like, why doesn't he make an MCV? In this kind of fight, Soviet versus Soviet at this level, when you're going Rhino for Rhino, the time it takes and the money it takes to build an MCV, you're just kind of out of the game. I mean, there's some cases, maybe a
Yes.
really slow map, maybe if you've already been turtling, but in a map like a
Mm-hmm.
game like that, there's so little static defenses. Your army, it's Rhinos versus Rhinos, and it's just not viable. You just rarely see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfectly answered there. Yeah.
Yeah, KZ Dane, and Fulcrum Furry with the
And
Fulcrum
you come
Fury,
at
Fulcrum
Jonathan.
Fury, Fulcrum Furry. Thanks for the follow, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, and that's what it takes to be playing at this level. And so for the Blitz match today, I'm actually going to have both these players send me their point of view videos, and I'm going to try to make a video where we can kind of go like look at both of theirs, because that's, I think, where you really start appreciating what's going on in here, and you get beyond like the dogs and rhinos, this is boring, and you're like, dude, this is, I mean, for Kian to be doing all the things he was doing there and still sneak that drone in, like that's, man, it's tough. And like, Ed, that was a good point. You saying like, if you're doing, and I feel the same way, if I'm doing something right, like if I ever find myself thinking like, oh dude, this attack is sick right now, or like my build is spot on, it means that I'm doing 7 things wrong. That's what it is for me. Like if I'm doing something perfect, there's 7 things that are not getting enough attention. And with Kian specifically, one of his strengths, of course, is doing all 8 things perfectly. It's just really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, he does this. He keeps up. He's gonna need it on this map, by the way, because this is a standard map where everybody makes first 2 units that come out of your war factory are drones, right? First 2 drones on the left side here. We talked about how some maps you're forced to make 2 depots. this is kind of one of them where you have to be careful here. You have to have a preemptive depot on the center there so that you can send your miner instantly from the bottom side. If you don't, then you're going to have to make a depot on the bottom side, which he's now forced to right now, right? And if he gets droned on the top side, he's going to have to long distance
Oh,
send another miner all the way to the bottom.
oh, is he
He's
gonna
going to
save
lose
this
it.
miner? Oh, he doesn't
He
save it.
loses it.
Oh, and you guys, and when sometimes when you see it getting that close like that, any of you newer players, and then that one gets in a rhino. Oh my God! Oh, I thought it got
Yeah,
a.
Marco saw it. He killed it.
So yeah, any of you guys who are like, oh, it wasn't even close. The thing is, it only takes one hook drop. One hook drop
And
will
that,
evict the drone.
just FYI, he got droned the second time. He got droned on the top side. He sent that miner all the way to the bottom, and Marco met him with some tanks. So
Oh, I missed
Kian
that.
left only with 2 miners. Oh, he
Oh
still has tanks there.
no. Oh no. Okay. Oh, it looks like Kian just grabbed a miner here. I saw some wheels popping. I think Kian did just get a miner
This
there.
is
I missed that. So
looking really
Marco came
bad.
down the 1-2 punch, and oftentimes you will see these top level players when they get droned, they'll let their miner go almost to low health. You know, they play it so close sometimes. So I love that 1-2 punch, sending in a couple tanks to finish it off. Kian being down 2 miners here. Yeah, it's it's very unfortunate. I've talked about before. You know, I used to think like the drone wars early on. I'm like, this is silly. You know, like, but the funny thing is like, it's part if you're not drone warring, we're just sitting. Like that's the early game. It's really all you can do until you get your economy up. So I've actually learned to kind of appreciate like the nuances that go into it and how difficult it is. And then of course the defenses with the service depot. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a skill. I mean, a lot of players say, okay, you can just drone, insta drone, in Ruddler 2, right? It's a skill to try to defend against these drones more than it is a skill to do the droning, right? Whereas on Ruddler or on Yuri's Revenge, the skill is the opposite, right? Because miners like as soon as you aim a miner toward a drone, it insta kills it basically, right?
holy
On
shit,
Ruddler 2, it takes 2 shots.
Marco's sold.
He's in a comfortable position here. I don't think he needs any more units, or he doesn't think he needs any more buildings
Yeah.
here. He's going to spam some drone dogs, and here we go. Red Alert 2 at its finest.
Yeah, Red Alert too. No, yeah, but Ed, yeah, I appreciate that. And that's why it's funny to think like in Yuri's Revenge, when you're landing drones, it's like a surgeon, right? As soon as the turret heads away, you have to like send it on a perfect line. But yeah, and it's interesting in Red Alert 2, it's kind of easy to get in, but then the skill, of course, is when to build the service depot, when to pull the miner. But yeah, it's funny how different those things can be because people are like, Yuri's Revenge, Red Alert 2, what's the difference? It's like, holy shit, where do we start? Like we could talk all day about the
Yeah,
drones alone.
the drones alone create the opening for each player. Either they're going to start off in a easy game, or they're going to start off really complicated. And Kian in this game, he started off really complicated. He lost the first 2 miners by drones.
Yep,
So
and
you see him struggling here, out tanked, out foddered. Marco just pushing in aggressively, does not really care. Just has all his dogs in the front line there.
yeah, and that fodder advantage for Marco was big. He did have a tank advantage as well. That one's going to be going to Marco. And Marco is going to be taking home our first series in the triathlon here.
Oh, well, you know what? Kian brought it back.
Yeah, I mean, and luckily he was able to snatch some momentum late in that series because, like I said, you don't want to be going into the next one. All right, boys, here's what we got. Kian, the Octo Kid in yellow, bottom right, out of Russia. He's facing off against Marco, the GOAT, in red out of Finland, top left. So I started this series and then had the wrong settings and then quit out. Anyway, we're back at it. Here we go. So we have a triathlon today, all 3 different game modes. Marco taking down Kian in Red Alert 2. Now we're over to Yuri's Revenge. Right after this, we're running Blitz. If you're catching it live, you're catching all those back to back to back. You're catching this on YouTube, you're catching the replays. So Ed, sorry, we started that Yuri's Revenge conversation. Talk to me like I wasn't listening because I got distracted. Yuri's Revenge, who's favorite here? What do we know?
Well, Yuri's Revenge, we got to give Marco's always a favorite, I feel like, in Red Alert 2 or Yuri's Revenge. He has had the experience, what, is it like 16 years now playing Red Alert 2? No, maybe that's wrong. Maybe like, let's say 15 to whatever years. And Kian's only been playing for a couple years. Granted, he's a beast. But comfort pick, I'd say Marco, just because of it. And then now, Kian looks a little confused, right? He was playing as allies here a second ago and switched over to Sovs now that we restarted this match.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So he,
not sure he's coming in with the game plan.
yeah, yeah. It was so funny. So we had multi-engineer is on in Yuri's Revenge this month. I'm taking it off next month. But anyway, multi-engineer, for those of you guys unfamiliar, basically you can't engineer your opponent's buildings. There's a more complicated explanation, but basically you can't engineer your opponent's buildings with multi-engineer on. So I'm a big fan of that because I hate engineers. But in regular Yuri's Revenge, in quick match, that setting's not on. So you do see people engineering each other a lot. In regular Red Alert 2, it is on, so players don't engineer each other a lot. So anyway, so when we had Kian didn't know that rule. I didn't have the setting on. So Kian was playing Allied and getting ready to go for a double engineer rush. When I switched that rule back on, now he's back over to Soviet again. But the engineering, Ed, I hate watching engineering, but I guess it's normally in Yuri's Revenge. I think next month I'll add it back in. I just hate
Yeah,
it.
it's kind of been accepted by the community. Something that was really like frowned upon, and almost there was actual and a literal code of honor back then, right? Where people just we didn't have no such toggles in or toggle off, right? Multi-engineer type thing. Like we just players just respected each other and were like, okay, no, we're not gonna do this type of things. Alting and engineering were kind of like taboo stuff that we just didn't do, right? Even though we had the capabilities
Yeah.
and options to do it during games, we just respected each other and didn't do it. And the people who did, funny enough, would get shamed in the community, and they would like get less games than others. They would get kicked out of lobbies and stuff. So we live in a different era now. All
Yeah.
that kind of stuff is accepted. Alting is like go for it, dude. Like just play to win, man. Like all these is part of the game, you know. Just go, go, go.
Yeah, it is. It is so funny. I mean, but it's so funny like that different era. I mean, because I feel like we have kind of evolved past like the back in the day where it was kind of like gentleman's stuff, and now it's like it's play to fucking win. With these guys at the top level, some players are like that more than others, obviously. But there's this group of players who will do anything possible, and Woody, of course, is a big example. In the Chinese servers, you can engineer even in Red Alert 2, which is what they play, and he's engineering almost every game, right, as Allied. So it's there at the top level, that's for sure. But also, Ed, what do you think? Like back when you were back then, players got better at engineering, right? Like, isn't it more detrimental now? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, they naturally got better now because we
Because they
never
do it.
actually used it
Yeah,
before.
right,
Yeah,
right.
we never tried to experiment it, and which was hurting us at the end of the day, right? Because when we talked about our competitive scene, it was just about Access, right, and maybe Game Ranger. But when we introduced, or when we got introduced to the Chinese players, QQ, these guys played without gloves, right?
Yeah.
They didn't play with like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let me just respect you here, or I'm gonna for honor. No, no, I'm gonna murder you. You're dead. Here's 10 engineers and everybody on the extras part. They were like, what the hell, man? Like, what? How do we face this? Wait, why am I playing a France on Heck? Why is he engineering me as France on Heck? It was just too crazy for us to like, yeah, but we were hurt. We never
Yeah.
practiced. So Marco ended up starting to practice in QQ, and he started getting really good against engineers. We see players against Andy. I mean, that's literally his go-to move, right?
Right.
If he's playing allied, it's nothing but engineers. So, yeah.
So Kian does get that denied, that bottom attack, bottom left. Top side gonna lose that split as well. Kian with a slightly bigger presence bottom left, but Marco with a few sentry guns. Kian now in the very center of this map. Yeah, I think that's so funny, the idea, Ed, and like all the Western guys showing up being like, hey guys, want to play some Red Alert 2? And all of a sudden just getting triple punch NG'd, cannon walked, like,
Yeah, dude, it was fun times.
yeah, so now the MCV, and I guess just accepting that it is, part of the game now, and all right, so now a little bit of a fodder advantage. Kian goes right into it. Good tank control, but Marco's reinforcements are going to pull him ahead in that position as well. So Marco pulling ahead in both these little engagements so far. MCV a little bit naked right now for Kian. He did destroy that bridge. Now
Yeah,
he's going to run with the MCV.
Kian's miner got droned in the center as well, and he has oh
Oh,
wait, he loses the miner, and then the drone goes into the MCV as well, huh?
so then he can. Oh my God! So that drone, but then the service depot's right there, but Kian's not there. Kian's on
He
this
doesn't see
attack.
it.
Kian doesn't know he's droned. So Kian sent that MCV top right. He went right past the service depot. Very unfortunate. However, Kian is pulling ahead on this engagement bottom left. No fodder in that mix, but pretty good tank. And he's going to take... And so now both players losing their MCVs here. Marco 6 war factories and 12k in the bank. Now Kian's starting to go broke, and Kian in the middle feasting on miners. So cleans out the economic advantage of that middle position here. And Kian's staying on the push, but now in the middle of a few sentry guns. You got to think he could drive past those sentry guns, continue his attack. As Marco now in Kian's base, bit of a base trade situation. Kian's dead ass broke though. Marco's going to start pumping drones and should be able to hold this position. The 12k advantage for Marco here is nice.
Yeah, he's gonna need that eco
Oh,
there because Kian is also on a mission on the left side there, and he's taking out a lot of Marco's buildings, and miners not too much though. Marco still has like just about every single one of his miners.
look how many vets are in this group though. And he's taking down these miners. He's going to get a few vets out of that. And Kian chases off Marco on the top right. The problem is Kian needs to drop the hammer here. Kian has like one miner at home, and Kian's attack finally does go down here. Kian, another wave coming. This one's not looking. No, Kian is definitely ahead there still. But oh no, Kian. Okay, is Kian building miners? He might be building miners.
He
He's got
might have,
five.
yeah.
He's got 5 working for him here, and he's cut Marco all the way back. And Kian pushing him around now. A couple vets in that group. Things can swing quick if they go elite. Kian quits out?
Yeah, I guess he felt there was just way too many miners from Marco there.
Just didn't have
And
the
like you mentioned a couple times, Ken was going bottoming out over and over, right?
would have been tough, but I felt like he wasn't really going full send. I mean, I felt like he was kind of. I think he built a few miners. He had some miners working, but yeah, we talked about the momentum, guys, the mentality. And you know, it's funny. Andy always says, right? Andy's whole thing is that like Marco isn't really as good as people say, but he has this like aura, and like everyone's kind of scared of Marco, and everyone plays differently versus Marco, which is, you know, obviously it's a funny idea, but there is something to be said. Like if you're in QM and you don't know it's Marco, you probably are going to play slightly better because it's scary versus Marco. Like you definitely have that looming feeling of like, if I make a mistake, this guy's going to cut my head off and spit down my throat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and it's a real thing. It's a true thing too. And I've mentioned it before. And it's not to put anybody down, but if I'm in a game versus like I don't know, let's say an S class player, right? I'm just gonna use standard S class player, and I see myself in a losing position where I'm basically going to be scratching and trying to find a way to win, right? With like maybe a 1% winning condition, I'm just going to quit out.
Right.
But if I'm playing against a C class player or B class player, and I know I'm playing against that B class player, I'm going to take my chances for that 1% chance because chances are that 1% is going to increase to like a 90% chance by forcing him to make a mistake, which lower class players are more prone to make mistakes. But when you're facing an S class player, yeah, they're not going to be making no mistakes. They're going to close you out pretty damn quick. So a lot of times it's just easier to quit against these type of players.
Yeah, and I think that's in the premature quits. I mean, and that feeling of like, if you get behind by an inch, having that insurmountable feeling, which I think is what we saw there, that premature quit from Kian. I think it was that feeling of like certainly if we took screenshots of that game and we sat down all the Red Alert 2 scholars to analyze it, they would say, you know, X, Y, and Z, you know, certainly Marco's in a position where he could, if he did anything wrong, Kian could easily be back in this, could easily be winning. But you have that feeling of like Marco won't do anything wrong. And
Yeah.
and of course, when I say that, you know, talking about the Marco, that mentality of Marco, I'm not taking anything away from Marco. You guys know I talk about Marco all the time as the GOAT. But there is something to be said for that mentality. And I think sometimes when you see, and I think, you know, that when people question that quit there, ultimately that is the answer. It's because why did he quit there? Because he's playing Marco. And the odds of Marco blundering that position, the odds of Marco losing that, obviously are very different than the rest of us mortals. So Proving Grounds, this map, now 4 oils out, definitely a boon to your early economy here. What's it opened up for you here with these 4 oils, Ed?
Yeah, this is eco-friendly map here. You can literally go like with just one miner, you can go like 3, 4, especially on Yuri's Revenge, right? 3, 4 war factories, back to back to back. So high production on this map. You're gonna see a lot of war factories. Usually players transition over to some IC like later on after they have usually like 5, 6 war factories. It's just so eco-friendly, you know, with all the oils and the gems that you could just literally build off to. Um,
Yeah,
Man, I'm
yeah.
telling you right now, we're gonna see a lot of goddamn tanks here.
Yeah, and so already, so 5 war factories for Marco here on the bottom side. He's still got 4K in the bank. We're only at the 3.5-minute mark. Kian matched. Kian 1 war factory behind. And again, you see Kian chomping at the bit, you know, over the 50 line every game early on. And I like to see that aggression kept on, but I like to see the aggression without it going into like full tilt. You know, full tilt mode where like someone all of a sudden goes 0 and they send 1 tank in and they're just like waypointing their tanks straight into the enemy base.
Me?
I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not seeing that from Kian, which is good. You know, he's keeping his aggression on, but we're not really seeing you know, signs of early tilt yet.
hmm Yeah, he's obviously still in the game here. You need to have that mentality if you want to play at the top levels, and this guy does play at the top level, so I'm sure he's learned to deal with some losses, especially playing against some of those guys in Rambo. They're no joke, right? So learning to lose, learning to win, all big parts of becoming a really great player.
Learning to lose, learning to lose. That's the hard part. That's the hard part. A little bit of fodder advantage here for Kian. Kian a little bit more money in the I'm used to Blitz where the economy's so static, like you can still look at it and see where people are at, but this changes so much with the... All right, here we go, big engagement, fodder sends in, sentry gun from Marco, nice sentry gun, all the fodder gets cleared out, and Kian very quick on the retreat there, and a good decision too. Another second delay there could have been very, very different. Nice defensive advantage there from Marco. Kian coming over that ore, slowing his tanks down a little bit. Yeah, and Kian with a good pullout, gonna regroup. Man, that's one of those ones, that's a half second different, that whole army goes down, and Kian gets counterpunched.
So, something to know. I feel like honestly, I mean, Marco has like a really good sense of the gameplay, right? Like what he needs to do or whatever. Something that I think favors Kian is his tank control. He has really good tank control, but a lot of times he's pushing into Marco, right? With his tanks into like a defensive structure or maybe some uh, sentry guns, whatever it is. So he's not really showing his tank control here
Yep.
as good as he should.
Yeah, and it does get over and grabs that little war factory. Nice map awareness there to get value anywhere you can. Difficult to appreciate, but it's like, you know, you see 7 war factories, you grab one, you're like, does that matter? And the answer is yes. Rhinos versus Rhinos, it does matter. Especially with Marco with a war factory advantage. Yeah, we have seen Kian, we have certainly seen Kian in a few tank engagements, not really flexing that like Picasso-like artistry we've seen from his tank control in some battles here. That fodder in front, big fodder advantage here. He has the dogs out in front taking hits here. See if Kian can try to find an opening. Kian gonna come out way ahead here. Beautiful
Did you
use.
see how he positioned his tanks there?
Yeah. Oh.
That's the tank control I was talking about. He
Yeah.
has beautiful tank control. He understands how to position his tanks, his fodder, how to push in and stuff, right? A lot of times, like I said, he's just pushing into Marco's defensive structures. Marco's really good at defending in those situations, but right there, Marco a little too far from his base, so no sentry guns, no defensive structures were going to be placed here in front of him.
Purposefully, like every
Yeah.
time a sentry gun comes emerging from the ground for Marco, I shiver a little bit. But Kian, very nice. They're throwing those dogs in front, and I really want to get these guys, some of these kind of guys together, and really teach a class. Like when we talk about tank control, I mean, at the lower, there's so many levels. You know, step number 1, don't shoot an enemy building while you're getting shot in the side of the head. That's hard enough for new players to learn. But now we're talking about, at this level, we're talking about positioning your tanks so that multiple rows of units can be shooting. We're talking about not having your tanks backwards so the turrets don't have to turn around. Like these little
Yeah.
things that to most of us, we don't even, not even close to being on my to-do list as far as getting to be a better player. But these guys, it's making or breaking these games.
Yeah, it's all about those little things, like you said. One big thing that I mentioned right now, and it was a little thing at the end of the day, right? From Kian was when he positioned all his tanks there, like you said, making sure that all your tanks are shooting, right? Kian had a lot of tanks grouped up in the bunch where all his back tanks were not going to shoot. So he grabbed the back line of his tanks basically and stretched them out so that they were all shooting at the same time. It was a little thing, but it was so huge for that tank battle right there. That's why he came out. God, how many tanks did he have left over? Like 20,
Yeah.
30 tanks? You know,
Yeah.
that's insane to have because when you talk about going toe to toe, Marco had like 6 war factories, 7 war factories, He shouldn't have been out tanked that hard at the end of that battle. But it was just the tank control that Kian had that just made him just come out so far ahead.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you draw attention to that because when I first got into commentating, well, I don't know why I say that. Even now, I oftentimes I'm like, oh, this person's ahead, and then all of a sudden they engage, and the person who I thought was ahead, the other guy comes out with 10 tanks. And I used to think I'm like, holy shit, I have no idea what's going on. But the reality is, when two groups of tanks go at each other, um, it's not about who has more tanks. It's about the tank control. And that's why I started going back and watching replays, and I was realizing, oh, like I had the tank numbers right. I just, that guy did like you said, he did a little movement, or the moves where if there's a lot of fodder, you drive your
Hmm.
tanks over the fodder, things like that. And it's funny how decisive it'll be. All of a sudden the dust settles, and you're like, oh, this guy has an entire army
Yeah.
left. So there, like when your tanks are bunched up, Ed, is it like 3 tanks in a row? Like one tank can shoot over another tank, right?
Usually, if you target a tank behind another tank, the front tank will always take the shot no matter what. For the most part, I should say. So if like you're trying to you start targeting tanks. You have to know when to start targeting tanks as well. You can't be targeting like when you have large group number of tanks, right? Once you start like breaking them down, you have like a group of like, let's say 10 tanks or something, then people start looking into targeting tanks, because usually by then you still have a lot of leftover fodder, and that could really play a big difference. So targeting tanks that are behind certain tanks will shoot the front tank and then automatically shoot the tank in the back. It's really hard
Ah.
to explain, but
Interesting. I see what you're saying. Yeah, as they
yeah,
shoot through. Yeah, because I mean, in big
exactly.
engagements, I mean, so in low body situations, you're clicking down tanks. That's the biggest thing. If you have, 10 tanks, you need, or 5, 6. I mean, these like right
Mhm.
now, you need to click the enemy tanks so you don't shoot dogs. At large groups, though, obviously you can't be doing that. So to fodder management, you need to be trying to run over the enemy dogs. You can't try to like because you don't want to have your whole army click. But I guess like if you're but like you said, Kian's tanks in a bunch, he needed to spread them out because obviously the tanks in the back weren't there to shoot. Um, and then, of course, that's why you see sometimes players getting up on higher ground because then they're able to shoot over more. And then you have then like the hotkey to grab your weak tanks. Do you use that, Ed? Like, are you trying to pull your weak tanks to the back line? Is that part
There's
of your?
times there, yeah, there's times I do, but I do it manually. I don't use a hotkey. And of course, people are in chat are mentioning it. This goes without saying. The fodder obviously playing a big, large role there. If you notice, a lot of times what these players do is they'll push in and they'll let their fodder do the work, and then they judge
Yeah.
based on that. Do I commit or do I fall back? And right now we just saw Kian, for
Yep.
example. He threw
Oh,
the fodder there.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, but they got that
going into a
sentry gun.
sentry gun.
That
That's huge
sentry
right
gun.
there.
And you saw it there. All those turrets turned and started pounding that sentry gun. And Marco quick back in there. Yeah, easy, Robert. Easy, Robert. Easy, buddy. Yeah, obviously the dogs. We all saw the dogs in front. We called that out right away. But there's other. It's not. It wasn't like Kian just threw a pack of dogs in front and wiped him out because of it.
Yeah.
God.
There's a little more to it. It
Yeah.
goes in depth, and that's what we're trying to talk about. There's a
Yeah.
lot of little things that we don't take under consideration. A lot of times it's just like, okay, I got dogs, I got tanks, let's go.
Yeah.
No, you got to use them right, right?
Yeah.
We just talked about how Kian right there, they threw each other's dogs out. Kian lost his dogs, fell back, and then re-engaged with a sentry gun, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just using these little tactics that you have to learn how to play on the moment, right? These are decision making, key decision making moments that you have to do instantly, or else you lose. Literally, you have to make the right play at the right time.
Yeah, and it's so much easier. I mean, I've gotten pretty good at grabbing all my dogs and telling them to run into the enemy base and then going in behind. That's like step one, But then trying to not get my tanks all bundled up. Every once in a while you get in a death line accidentally because the tanks aren't very smart. I'll assume all the Rhino tank drivers, they're all drunk. I mean, like you tell them to go somewhere,
Yeah,
they're like, "Yeah, hey, you mind if we go in a single file line?" Like you have to
yeah.
I mean, that's why we call it micro. I mean, you have to send these guys inch by inch practically to not make them decide to like take a Congo line of death around the lake. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Uh,
Zed, there is a hotkey to grab the wounded units. I think. I swear, Kane told me there was. Maybe
there
that's
is.
not a
I'm sure
popular
there
thing.
is. I don't use them. I don't personally
Oh,
use any
Zed
of
was
the
saying he didn't
hotkeys.
know about it, so I thought maybe I pulled that out of my ass. um,
Oh, is that yeah? Okay.
Yeah, but Zed doesn't know about it either. But yeah, because I mean, theoretically, you put your wounded tanks on the back line so that they're
Mhm.
not, they would shoot a little bit more before they die. Maybe. I mean, who knows? All right, so
Yeah,
the
that's next level shit. I wonder
yeah,
if Woody
next
does
level
that.
shit.
So
All right,
huge fodder engagement right there.
yep,
Who comes out ahead? It looks like kind of Marco comes out a little bit ahead, so he pushes forward now.
yep.
Kian does not care. He's going in.
All his tanks
Uh,
pummeling each other. Ooh, and surprised to not see Kian pull out there. Maybe Kian felt like that game was already lost because he could have pulled out and tried to live to fight another day. Looked like Kian was just kind of ready to fall on his sword in that position.
we literally did like 50 games just back to
Oh,
back,
really?
and that's all it is, dude. That's all it is. You just spawn with a bunch of tanks and dogs, and you just learn how to use them, and you feel it. You start feeling it. It's not just about knowing, right? You start feeling the sense of where your tanks need to go to get the right shot, and where your dogs need to be, and how to pull them in and out. Maybe sometimes you can pull some of the dogs in the front line back, which their opponent dogs chase those front dogs, right? So
Oh,
you have to learn how to move these things, and it's just a bunch of little things that you kind of start picking off. You know what I mean?
that's sick. I love that. Yeah, it's funny, those kind of things. I keep saying Red Alert 2 University School of Command Craft and Conquery that we need to like put together, not only the videos, but combine them with training courses like that. Because that's the way, and it's so funny, like to go into games and practice your tank control doesn't really make sense because you're trying to do all the other stuff, like to separate them. I mean, if you want to get better at basketball, you don't just go scrimmage every day. You don't just play games. You go in and you practice your jump shot, you practice your layups. But I think the problem is like sometimes I'm like I guess we talk about that kind of stuff, and then at the end of the day, I'm like, when it comes down to me personally, I'm kind of like, well, I'd rather just play game. You know, I'm not. But if you want
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
become
exactly.
competitive, like that's what it takes. And I think people need
Yeah.
to appreciate that. Like when people are like, "Oh, I'm not getting better," I'm like, "Well, are you just going to? Are you drinking beer and playing pickup games, or are you going to the gym at 5 a.m. by yourself and working on your jump shot?" And that's what we're talking about with Kian versus the average player.
Absolutely.
Putting in those, just grinding. I should share some of those maps in my Discord. I'll make a note of that, guys. Any of you guys who do want to get in here and have some of those, like a map like that where you can really practice your tank control. D5 to Pro. That's what we're gonna have to call the training program.
Yeah, 1 month in this training course, you're gonna go from D5 to pro instantly.
Yeah, guaranteed. And then the trick to those kind of training programs is like we'll be like, yeah, if you follow our training program, you'll beat Marco in 30 days, guaranteed. And then we just make the training program insane. Like, yeah, so today
Yeah.
you need to work on your tank control for 20 hours straight. Like,
Jesus, yeah, yeah. Follow this religiously. You have to wake up at
yeah.
6 in the morning and do these
Yeah.
tank goddamn control procedures or whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
I always have like dreams about like what it would be like if Red Alert 2 mattered to the world. And I always picture like a video of like a day in the life of the Octo Kid. And it's like following Kian around Crimea as he like, you know, goes to the coffee shop and like reads Red Alert 2 theory books and then comes home and works on his tank control, you know? But
that'd be awesome. Can you imagine?
unfortunately,
The flip side of this, and it's a funny story because it's a true story. Marco, so we talked about Kian and his tank control, right? That's one aspect of the game, the whole tank and controlling and microing your units and stuff, right? One aspect. The other one, which is just as important, if not even more important, is the macro gameplay, right? Your builds. Your
yep.
build order is so crucial to how this game plays. And funny story, Marco actually had a playbook of his build orders, right? He actually has a written
What?
book
No.
where he used to keep it back in the day. I'm not sure if he still has this
Now it's in
book.
his head, probably.
But yeah, it's probably in his head. But he did. He used to write some of his build orders down from what he used to say,
That-
right? Like,
Can you imagine how
which is
much
pretty crazy.
how much
Yeah,
that's gonna sell for on Amazon when we finally get to the
dude.
moon? When we finally
Yes,
get to the
do it.
moon. um, so okay, so Marco, how long has Marco? Okay, have you taken like a long break before, Ed? I mean, how long? I always say that you've been around for 20 years, but have you've taken breaks? When was
Yeah.
Marco's last break? Do you know?
Well, I started. Well, I took my break in like 2007, and I came back in like 2012, more or less. I think Marco was barely starting in like 2007, 2006. He was like a noobish. I didn't know much of him, to be
When
completely
you
honest.
came back in 2012, though, he was here.
Yeah, he was here and he's never left. He's had like little like month breaks here. I think he joined the military, and then he took like I don't know. There was a long break where he just wasn't around. I think he was in the military or whatever, but
Was he
he always just
dominating
came right back.
when you
Oh
2012
yeah.
when you came back? He was dominating. Holy
Yeah, when
shit!
I came back, he was
What?
the king already. Yeah.
Wait, okay, here's the thing. I've kind of skirted around the timeline because I thought it would downplay the way I talk about him, to be perfectly honest. Like, I'm always just like, he's been dominating for years. And in my head, I kind of thought it was 3 or 4, so I didn't say it because I'm like, damn, I really hyped this up. I'll just be ambiguous. He's been dominating for, wait, more than 10 years? Is that
Just
right?
about, yeah. I want to say, yeah.
Oh my god, that story's way more epic. I'm glad I know that. All right, here we go. Fodder advantage for Marco, but Kian with a massive tank advantage here. Reinforcements coming and more fodder coming as well. Nice little base stretch from Kian as well. Looks like Kian's played this map a little bit. This is a newer map from Polye that came out last month. We played it blind. Oh, and Marco's reinforcements come in and swing that.
Yeah, Kian very confident still here, pushing in. It looks like they're just about even. If a sentry gun comes down right here, it could change the tide. Marco, though, coming out ahead on that fight, and with like 6 war factors as well, and a war factor literally right there in front of him. He can just primary that war factor and get reinforcements instantly there.
Yeah,
He doesn't want to go into Kian's base or into Kian's fodder and miner stuff, though.
yeah, and no, Marco, of course, doesn't know. Kian is broken. Kian's money now coming in. I was going to say, Kian doesn't have the sentry gun support that he wants here, but the dog's to the front line, forward war factory, forward barracks, so both players pumping to the front lines.
Yeah,
And
and
both
Marco
players in
playing
the middle
around
of that move their
that building
MCVs.
there.
What's that?
If you Marco playing around that building there, so
Yeah,
any dog that gets close just gets nailed by it. I'm not
very
sure if you're
nice.
noticing, but
Yep.
those that fodder from Ken just keep going down.
Yeah, I've seen the flashes. Damn, I thought Kian was coming out there for a second. I swear Kian was ahead for a second there. Oh my god. So President IFV says Marco's spoken about on forums in 2001. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Oh, it's saying, oh, it's different in, oh, it's different in RA2 and YR. Ah, so in
yeah. That's what I
RA2,
thought.
they need to move and go back in. YR, they promote inside the building. Interesting. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah,
Good to know.
no, Marco definitely started way past 2001. He wasn't there during Wool times.
Oh, really? Oh, so maybe a different. Okay. Well, anyway. Well, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
the idea more is like when he started kind of dominating, and that if he was around and kicking ass when you came back 2012, 2013 or whatever. Dude, that is nuts, man. And I guess that's what's so exciting about Kian, right? I mean, the fact that he's hanging and banging, and Kian's only been around for a year and a half. Well, competitive. I guess Kian's been playing now for 2 years. Kian's been playing for about 2 years, a little less than 2 years.
He's been playing for 10 years and we keep saying he just started. He just started like 1 year ago.
Wait, Kian?
He's been 16. He's been 16 for the past like
No,
3 years.
Kian
No, it's just
hasn't.
a meme. It's
Kian
just a
hasn't
meme
been
because
playing competitively for more than 2 years. Because I remember when he started playing with Jaws about 2 years ago.
yeah. No, we're just fucking around because we're like, oh, dude, how old is Kian? He's like 16. Like
Kian's
two
getting
years later,
younger.
how old is Kian? 16. I was like, dude, he's been 16 for the
I
past
know.
like 3 years, man. Like,
Well,
how long has Kian been playing? 1 year. Two
yeah,
years later,
I
how long
know.
has Kian been playing? 1 year. Like, what the fuck? This math is not adding up.
Well, he's the Octo
But yeah,
Kid,
he's been
right?
around for like 3 years. He's been around for like 2 to 3 years for
I don't.
sure.
It has. I honestly. Well, the thing is, I started streaming 2 years ago, and he was not like he. I remember when he because I was streaming 2 years ago. I don't think he was playing competitively and known 2 years ago. I'm
Okay,
pretty sure.
here's a funny. I think he might have. Here's a funny story. You know who Quas is, obviously, right?
Yeah,
Quas is like one of the top five players, undoubtedly. He's just
of
there.
course. Yeah.
He's one of the best players right now in the game. He hard to reach, but he's one of the best players. Anyways, I looked back on one of my tournaments that I hosted in like 2018, right? I thought Quas was also a new player. I was like, damn, this guy just came out of nowhere, right? I looked at one of my tournaments and I saw his name and I was like, wait, what the fuck? Quas? He actually was playing in my tournaments back in like 2018, 2019, I forget when. He was getting smoked by everyone. Like some of our B class players were just destroying him, like 0-5 or whatever, 5-0 or whatever. And I was like, wait, what the hell is this? The real Quas? It is this exact same Quas. And all of a sudden, we nobody even knew about it, but everybody thinks he came out of nowhere, right? But he's
Yeah.
just been around. He's just been under like hidden. You know how Quas is. He doesn't speak much, you know.
No, it's possible to get a hold of him. Yeah, you're right. Well, and that's I mean, here's the thing, and it's actually funny because it's the story of greatness. Like as humans, we love the he came out of nowhere. Like we love those stories of like this idea that like talent and genius and perfection can just like spawn randomly. And I think it gives hope to the rest of us because it's like, yeah, Kian did this random thing out of nowhere. Maybe we can do it. Get top. Marco goes topside, going to grab that power plant completely uncontested. We'll throw off
Yeah, that's very nice there.
Kian's build a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we always like that idea where like, yeah, he's just like he's a prodigy or whatever. Like he
Yeah.
has natural talent, and it's like no, Kian for a couple years been playing the game nonstop. But
Yeah.
and so Kian pushing in here now, and again, that was one of those pesky sentry guns from Marco, and Kian's army pops.
Yeah, that's like a I give up
Yeah,
on this
yep,
game
yep.
type of push right there, right? He lost his power plant. He's like, all right, I'm gonna send it downfield. Like that's not good tank control that we talked about Kian doing, right? Or having. He just kind of went in there sloppily, lazily.
Yep. No, I think Kian's over this. Okay, so Balth, did Kian played in your tournament? So 2 years ago in Balth's big tournament. That Balth's big tournament was 2 years ago. Hungry, Grimio with the sub right as I hit the intro. Oh my god. What a day to be alive. All right, here we go, boys. We are here in the finals. The finals for event number 16 in the World Series. Here we got Marco the GOAT, aka the final boss in red out of Finland. On the right side, facing off against Kian, the Octo Kid in yellow here on the left side. For those of you guys catching us live here, this was a triathlon today. These guys made it to the finals in all 3 different game modes, and we ran the Red Alert 2, we ran the Yuri's Revenge, now we're in Blitz. For those of you guys catching it live, you also will know that Kian's been getting beat up a little bit. You know, there's not a nicer word for it. Well, there is a nicer word, but it wouldn't be accurate. But all right, Mika, I'll keep up on the subs. We can't do the subs anymore. We're getting too many. We gotta focus here a little bit. Anyway, guys, sorry, I'm spread a little too thin on my sleep. Anyway, now we're over to Blitz. Kian's lost the last 2 series. It's now Kian's chance to get a win here. If there is a game mode he can get it done in, you got to think it's Blitz. We'll see if Kian can keep his momentum. It's tough after 2 losses. Ed, is this the one? Is this where he gets the win?
I really hope so. I really hope that he shrugged off the losses on the last series. Blitz is another breed, right? It's not Ruddler 2, it's not Yuri's. This is his game mode. This is usually where he shines. Like you said, he has 8 hands, and in these type of game modes, you need all those hands because you need to be multitasking crazily after having a bunch of oils and everything going out.
Yeah, and that's what. And this map, especially, guys, this is the first Blitz map that's been bigger than the size of a screen. There's a lot going on. We named it Carnival for a reason. You got the power plants, the oils, the airport, an eagle pad on the top side, Psychic Dominator, nuclear reactor in the middle, and Marco right over and goes at the power plant. And Marco, guy, you think Marco would give the kid a little room to breathe here, but Marco coming right at him. Marco with something to prove here. Any of you guys who caught our World Cup tournament, these guys made it to the finals in Yuri's Revenge and Blitz, and Kian took it home. Our World Cup champion in December in both game modes, and he beat Marco up good in December. So Marco here not to win, but here to prove something clearly as he rolls through the first point. There's two different kinds of good players, right? You have Marco, who we've been talking about a lot today, as, you know, dominating since 2012, right? So that 10 years of experience, like Marco, that's why Marco plays like a robot. That's why he's cold-blooded. If something crazy happens, you know, Marco still plays consistent. And with Kian, you know, like we have been underplaying. Like I said, Kian gets a little younger every time I stream. He's a 12-year-old who's been playing for a month. But even if he has been playing for 3 years, you know, in the last few months, we've seen him just get so much better. But that's largely on the back of a daily grind and a hardcore daily regime. And I think that ends up just being a little bit more fragile, realistically. I mean, that's what it is. Like Kian, when Kian is in December, he played 3,000 games. He was unstoppable. Then, you know, but he still kind of think has that part to him where it's like if Kian takes a week off or if he's not feeling good, you definitely see that in his gameplay. Whereas Marco just more consistent, and it just seems like we're not seeing Kian fully informed today, unfortunately.
Yeah, I really wish that he can shake off those losses and he just comes right back into this because honestly, Kian is probably one of the best players in Blitz. I honestly would rate him over Marco despite Marco just completely dominated him last game. I still feel like if Kian plays his game, forgets the losses that he's had, I feel like he can win easily here.
Yeah, he's gonna. I mean, that's what it is, and that's what it is. It's he has to get rid of that. He has to shake it off. He has to get out of, you know. I mean, there's something to be learned from a loss, but as soon as you extract what you've learned and get the information, you got to move on to the next point. And if Kian can do that, he can certainly take the series. Kian has way more Blitz experience. But Marco certainly has the momentum today. Kian taking the higher ground there, does grab that eagle, but that fodder from Marco's scary here. And again, one of those perfect pillboxes from Marco as well. Marco's starting to go broke. Kian 5K in the bank, and AVA is oftentimes a battle of bank accounts here. So Kian gonna get ahead on Eagle Wars. So this is the allied we've been seeing from Kian in Blitz lately. It used to be the meta in Blitz was you rush AFCs, you rush Eagles, whoever gets them first wins. But Kian ulting the War Factory, he's going to get it. That's Marco's only War Factory. Going to slow down tank production. Marco now out with Rockies. Huge. So this is kind of the older meta. Rockies and Eagles, everything you can right away. Fat kid in a candy shop style. Kian has started doing this thing where he gets a big economy behind him, and now he'll lose this AFC. He's building another AFC right now. He'll just start pumping AFCs. He gets a massive economy and then just starts pumping AFCs. Both players get 2 crates. Kian might have got 3 crates there. No, I think both players got 2.
Yeah, I think both players got 2 crates, and right now I think Kian or Marco might need it more than Kian for sure. How much money does he have? I can't really see. It's actually really blurry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So it's about 5K for each. So about even right now. There is kind of a variability to those crates. We can't set them exact, so sometimes a player will get a little bit more than another. Eagles coming in, so yeah, see the double AFC. Oh, he gets those 2 off. Oh my God, by the skin of his teeth, he saves those 2 Eagles.
He has a Patriot missile in the center of the map.
I love that.
Some of those, yeah, that is actually pretty nice.
That's the Octo Kid right there. He will do everything you let him do as far as building. All these bumps, we call these anti-Octo Kid bumps to keep him from base walking straight to the enemy's base. So Rocky's now matching, and Kian way out tanking here. So you saw Kian went 3 War Factories early on. There was one point in the game where Kian had 3 and Marco had 0 War Factories. You got to think that's going to convert into a tank advantage here, but the pillboxes and the Rockies are help holding the line, and the Rockies pull back, and Kian gets almost no value out of that attack. So Kian forced to bring a few tanks back. Kian switch over to IFVs, slowed down his Grizzly army a little bit here. It's Marco now on 3 War Factories. Marco, both players pretty contained. And the Eagles battles now begin. Rocky, and Kian has a Rocky. Kian has these IFVs that aren't in the fight right now, letting his Rockies. He's maybe trying to keep an eye on the Eagles. Keep
Yeah,
spamming
Kian did
AFCs.
snipe the AFC from
Oh,
Marco, so Marco now has to run around with those Eagles here for a little bit.
Marco recovers his AFC, and we're not seeing static anti-air from Marco, which is a bit odd. He's kind of the player in Blitz most likely to kind of build that like shield of Patriot missiles around his base. But we're not seeing that right now. And Kian threads the needle. Oh, but the IFVs he pulls out,
Oh,
loses one. Unfortunate. Yeah, usually send him home, guys, right? You need 5 Eagles to get the juicy stuff, to get the oils, to get the war factories. And we've seen a lot of action here in the early game, but we might settle into a slightly slower mid-game and kind of see that late-game crescendo as we often see in Allied versus Allied. It can be a game of who has more oils, who starves out the other person. Again, you can only build 12 oils per game total. Oh, nice hit. Gets a war factory
huge
as well.
hit.
Power planet too, I think.
I was gonna say those 3 oils in the back of Marco's base look a lot juicier, chain reaction wise.
Yeah, and this map, oh, that lightning was big.
Oh,
Lightning was
yes, lightning
big.
is huge.
Oh, that paradrop's gonna help here a little bit, but throws those Rockies to clean up that paradrop. These Rockies are scary, and Kian doesn't have any anti-air for these.
Wait, what happened to his IFVs? Did they get sniped by the lightning?
The lightning might have taken out his IFVs. Kian in trouble now. Kian quits out.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow,
Oh,
wow.
tough.
Must have lost like 5 or 6 tanks on that.
Yep,
Oh yeah,
yep.
Legend says 6 tanks, yeah.
Yeah, the lightning. I know. I'm like, I don't know how some of these. I definitely keep you guys on your toes. Normally there's a timer on the lightning. I just kind of get anyway. Just avoid those squares. It's simple. Legend. Avoid the lightning.
Yeah,
Uh,
avoid them.
um,
Sounds fair.
James Joint, thank you for the sub. I think I got James. Ben CNC, thanks for the sub, buddy. Appreciate it. Ben CNC, he's coming out this month. Ben CNC signed up for the tournament. I can't remember which game mode. We're going to see Ben CNC. I think Yuri's Revenge, maybe. Yuri's Revenge tournament in March, guys. We got 5 brand new maps specifically designed for each faction. So you're going to play Soviet versus Soviet, Allied versus Allied, Allied versus Soviet, Soviet versus Yuri. All the different factions on maps made by the best map makers in the community specifically for those faction matchups. Should be a good time. I gotta like start talking about next month now. Kian's breaking my heart around here, Ed. That's sweet.
Next month's gonna be a juicy one, huh? You're doing the whole thing again, but are you increasing the best of whatever?
Yeah, so it'll be best of 7. Red Alert 2 will just be like regular tournament. Yuri's Revenge will have those set factions, new maps. Blitz, we got a new map. Yeah, so should be a good time. But hey, maybe Kian. I feel like Kian. I feel like he's kind of already lost in his head, and that scares me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely not seeing the Kian I thought I was going to be seeing right now. But he can always bring it back. I mean, this kid, he's nuts. He's Soviet right now. I feel like Allied might be his comfort pick just because he can control multiple units at the same time. But we talk about how this map, excluding Latov, we talk about how this is a Soviet favored map, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if
I mean,
he
you
needs
got
to
to
bring
think.
it back, it's here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, him going Soviet here, I guess he feels like he doesn't want to sit back and try to play that longer game. He wants to try to get something done early. He's way out tanked. He just sat on the edge of that cliff and let some tanks die. Marco, I think, going to roll through here as a flat
Oh my
cannon
god.
comes up.
Nice.
Yeah,
Flat cannon to counter those Grizzlies, FYI.
flat cannon block. Yeah, you put the flat cannon to block. Yep. Well,
Very
hey, guys.
cost-effective.
You need some clouds to appreciate the sunshine. You know, that's what it's all about. We need a couple hype finals where it's a blowout without good games to make us appreciate the barn burners when we get them. You know, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I wonder if we had Blitz first, if we would be seeing the same Kian, right?
I would have.
He's coming into this demoralized for sure.
I know, and I kind of, I actually would have. I would be considering that as well. And I think yeah, I would have considered that. I probably would have done Blitz first to try to get Kian. I mean, because you guys know me, I got a soft spot for Kian, obviously, and I'm always cheering for. It's fun. This exciting story of this, this 12-year-old kid who's been playing for a week. I'm just kidding. It's just, yeah, Kian, this kid who was born yesterday. Just kidding.
Yeah, he was born with his natural talent here.
Kian, so Kian now, I think is like 18 or 19. But the problem is he's going to be the Octo Kid forever. In 10 years, we'll still be calling him the Octo Kid. It's just how it goes. The lore. But I probably would have given him Blitz right away to try to get a little momentum. Because like I said, Marco certainly doesn't need any help. But again, guys, you're looking at this and it's like, oh, this seems one-sided. It's like, Go watch the replays from December, guys. Head over to the YouTube. Go watch. In December, I mean, Kian didn't just beat Marco in the World Cup in Yuri's Revenge and Blitz. He really rolled through him. And that's what is exciting about this game. I mean, if Kian would have rolled through Marco again, it kind of would have been like, what's going on? So the fact that, like, Kian rolls through Marco in December, and then Marco rolls through Kian in February, it kind of does get the hype going because, hey, we'll be back next month. You know, we'll be back next month.
It's always fun to have different winners, and there's obviously Latov in the top scene there, where it could go either way, right? It could be Latov the winner, Kian, Marco.
It could be if Latov didn't say he won't play tournaments anymore. So now we don't say the L word anymore because it breaks my heart. It brings me too much heartbreak. I can't talk about Latov anymore. Can't say the L word. Just we
can't even say the L word with Legend either because he sucks, huh?
Yeah, Legend breaks my heart too. No, Legend put on a show yesterday. Legend,
I know, he did.
Legend. We had some bangers yesterday. If you guys missed them, stick around. Keep an eye on the YouTube, guys. I only post the good videos over there. The cream of the crop. A video goes out every couple days. Redalert2.com/YouTube. Yeah, Legend. I thought Legend was gonna be here today. We almost had Legend versus Kian.
That was a nail biter, that's for sure.
Yeah, that one was a banger. But no, Latov, and Latov says he'll still do show matches and stuff, but he just got frustrated with the scheduling and said he wouldn't do tournaments anymore. So, I mean, it is, it is what it is. Some people can schedule easier than others.
Marco all over Kian here, by the way, just dominating with these rhinos here. I don't know if Kian has anything to hold here anymore. A lot of rhinos are going to start creeping in here.
Kian, I don't think Kian's had much to hold on to here for the last hour or two, unfortunately. Well, like I said, hey, we can't have barn burners every day, I guess.
Hey, you know what? Credit where credit's due, right? Marco's a beast, though. I mean, you can't take that away from him. Whether Kian's playing sloppy or not, Marco's bringing it. He's not giving Kian any chances to, like, recompose himself. He's just down here just destroying Kian.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is important to note, Kian does get a pair drop downfield. He's going to get a War Factory at least, but Kian holding on the backside here. I don't know, this paradrop goes AFK. But yeah, it is important to note here is that, yeah, Marco is making Kian look like a 12-year-old. However, there are only a couple people in the world that would be doing this to Kian right now. Even if Kian's having an off day, there are still only a handful of people in the world that could be doing this to him. So yeah, you're right. It's really not fair to take it away from Marco. And right now, the momentum wave he's riding is because he came out the gates hard. Like Red Alert 2, he was on. Yuri's Revenge, he was on. And it's like, yeah, he's riding a wave right now, but it was a wave that was created on the back of some really good games by Marco.
Yeah, it's insane, Marco, this month, man. He's getting... I don't know, do we talk about money here? But goddamn, I think he plays top 4 in the Rambo thing, so he's getting bank off of that. You saw right here, he won the Red Alert 2 one, he won the Yuri one, he's winning the Blitz one. This month, man, Marco, he's on it, dude.
Marco's getting paid. Marco's getting paid, that's for sure. Wait, was that the last point? I think that was 4. Was that 4?
It all happened so quick.
Okay, so Marco Marco wins Blitz. Marco wins Yuri's Revenge. Play some 2v2s. Ed, you want to play some 2v2s?
Let's do it. Man, that is insane.
Yeah, and like I said, guys, that may have looked like, any of you guys who are kind of new around here might have looked like, why was that a matchup? Like I said, in December, guys, Kian was our World Cup champion, taking Marco down. So, hey, stick around for next month. We'll see what happens.
Perfect.